Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads. Lee here, and welcome to my week in books. Originally, I was going to do 3 videos this week. Yesterday, I posted a Memorial Day video. Today was going to be my week in books, and then I was going to do a book review for tomorrow. But I'll tell you why I'm not going to do it a little bit later. But first, I only read 2 books this week, and I know, that's like way lower than normal, but I started out with Friday Night Lights by H.G. Buzz Bissinger. I don't know if it's Bissinger or Bissinger, whatever. Anyhow, it took me 4 days to read this book. So that is why I only ended up getting 2 books in on the week, during the week. I really enjoyed this book, but it was a long read for me. Some of the I think it's his writing style, and also I'm not as familiar with football as I am with some other things that we'll get to later, just in a sneak peek of next week's weekend books. But I really enjoyed this book. I'll tell you about it. Let me find my glasses. So there's a movie based on this, and there was a television series. I think there was an earlier television series. I've watched an episode of the television series. I tried to watch the movie, but I just really couldn't maintain either. Not that they're not good. They're great. They're good. It just wasn't, I don't know. I'd rather watch a documentary. I ended up rewatching Saturdays in the South, A History of the SEC on Hulu, and it's fantastic. So, Friday Night Lights. Return once again to the timeless account of the Permian Panthers of Odessa, the winningest high school football team in Texas history. Socially and racially divided, Odessa isn't known to be a place big on dreams, but every Friday night from September to December, when the Panthers play football, dreams can come true. With frankness and compassion, H.G. Bissinger, unforgettably captures a season in the life of Odessa and shows how single-minded devotion to the team shapes the community, inspires, and sometimes shatters the teenagers who wear the Panthers uniforms. So, this was set in 1988. I don't know if it was the 88-89 season or the 87-88 season. It probably said here in here somewhere, but I don't remember it. I graduated high school in 1988. Yes, I'm dating myself. And this felt so real because I graduated in a smallish town and city in Louisiana. So a lot of this felt very familiar. This has been called an unflinching look at racism in Odessa, and I would have to say that is probably the reason that it was number 89 on the American Library Association's top 100 banned and challenged books since 2000, from 2000 to 2009. This book was originally published in 1990, so 10 years later it's still being banned and challenged, and there's only one reason. Some place, Idaho or Iowa, I think, I apologize to the one that didn't do it, tried to ban or challenge this book recently in the last couple of years, and they said it got snagged because of sex scene. If there's a sex scene in this book, I do not remember it. So that's how insignificant it was. Seriously, it's the racism, y'all. That's why they challenged it. But this led me to, like I said, Saturdays in the South, and also on either Disney or Hulu, there's a 30 for 30 called What Carter Lost. It was on Disney+. And that's about Carter High School in Dallas, who played the Panthers. And that documentary has it all. There's an attempt to get the football team banned from, not banned, but out of the championship runoffs, and there is armed robbery and prison time. It's a fantastic documentary. It has a little bit more happy ending than what happened to some of the Odessa Permian Panthers football team. And I wanted to make a comparison about that, in that how they ended up, the Carter High School team members who participated in the armed robberies ended up doing their time, getting out early, and then having a second chance at life. Whereas not everybody in, well, the one person, Booby, I think his name was, oh God, is it Booby? I keep wanting to call him, yes, it's Booby. Booby didn't have that same support system in the same way, money, that the Carter players did. And it was really a sad story because I think Booby is still in jail, in prison. And the one takeaway I got from this is, I also watched the Brett Favre documentary on Netflix this week, and it is that sense of, from both those documentaries, Carter and Brett Favre, and this, you live in a fairy tale for that 1 year of your life. You're worshipped, and that year is over, and you're like anyone else. With the documentaries, they get that sense of invincibility, so they can do anything, and then turns out you really can't. But I did enjoy this book. I'm so glad I read it. I bought it a long time ago, probably during football season, and I didn't expect to like be transported back in time to when I was finishing up high school and living in a smaller town. Anywho, highly recommended if you're interested in football. It really talks about, especially graduating from a town where the high school football team was the biggest shit in town, and you realize that after that you have to go on. Not everybody's going to even get into college football or into the NFL. So, great book. Now for a not so great book, for me. This was an anticipated novel for me, and that is We Live Here Now by Sarah Pinborough. I'll tell you what it's about before we get to what didn't work for me. After an accident that nearly killed her, Emily and her husband Freddie moved from London to a beautiful Dartmoor country house called Larkin Lodge. The house is gorgeous, striking, and to Emily, something about it feels deeply wrong. Old boards creak at night, fires go out, and books fall from the shelves. And all of it stems from the terrible presence she feels in the third-floor bedroom. But these things happen only when Emily's alone. So are they happening to her at all? She's still medically fragile. Her post-sepsis condition can cause hallucinatory side effects, which means she can't fully trust her own senses. Freddie doesn't notice anything odd and is happy with their chance at a fresh start. Emily, however, starts to believe that the house is being haunted by someone who was murdered in it, though she can find no evidence of a wrongful death. As bizarre events pile up and her marriage starts to crumble, Emily becomes obsessed with discovering the truth about Larkin Lodge. But if the house has secrets, so do Emily and her husband, and they live here now. This had every element that should have made me love it. Very short chapters, told from two perspectives, a twist at the end, some secrets, but there were a couple things. First of all, I didn't feel like I connected with either Emily or Freddie. I felt like there's another character in here, and that is a crow. I felt like I connected with the crow more than either of the humans. Also, I don't mind suspense. I don't mind a little bit of tease. But don't tease me indefinitely, and then when it comes out, it's like, I don't fucking care what you're teasing. It's not that big as you were making it out to be. To me, it's either tell it to me up front or tease a little bit and then let me find out later all at once. I don't want you to tease and tease and tease, because then I start to get impatient. And again, you've teased so much, it's built me up, so whatever you're going to reveal is not as, it's kind of anticlimactic. Anywho, again, I wanted to love this book. It was really just the the main characters, I couldn't feel anything for either of them. And it really is disappointing. Great cover, great premise, great everything except for that one thing, that connection to those characters. So, my week ended on a disappointment. And here's a little sneak peek for next week's weekend books. Now, I said I'm only doing 2 videos this weekend. Posting them this week. It's because my Memorial Day weekend has been pretty busy-ish. On Friday night, I had book club. Saturday, I went to the movies and watched Sinners, which is fan-fucking-tastic. I absolutely adored that movie. There was a scene that literally almost took my breath away. I was having trouble breathing. It was so remarkable for me. One thing you need to know, I'm a huge fan of Mississippi Delta Blues, and that played a big role in this. Loved the movie, highly recommend it. I'm going to buy it when it comes out. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the sneak peek. So for Memorial Day weekend, even though I ended the week with a disappointing book, and I had just read a nonfiction before that, I thought that it would be appropriate to read another nonfiction, and I chose The Good Soldiers by David Finkel. I will have talked a little bit about that in yesterday's Memorial Day video where this is featured. I'm not going to read the blurb on this. I'll read it next week for my weekend books. And then after I finished that on Sunday, and then I immediately went to Amazon and ordered the movie Warfare, which is just in theaters a couple months ago. Loved that too. So that kind of took up my time. I didn't squander my time this weekend. I just did other things than making videos. So I have to get chores done. If I don't do laundry or anything like that, I'm gonna have issues at work next week. So what I'm currently reading is The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. This is a rom-com. Sarah Adams at the end says she was going through something and needed a book so sweet that it gave her cavities. And that's what I need after The Good Soldiers. Again, I will have talked more about that in yesterday's video, in yesterday's Memorial Day video. Now, back to Sinners. What I wanted to read next, I pushed off by a book or so because again, I need something so sweet it gives me cavities after reading about the trauma of war and the soldiers who went through what they did. But soon I intend to read The Devil Three Times by Ricky Fain. This gives me those Sinners vibes because it is an audacious debut novel spanning 8 generations of a black family in West Tennessee as they are repeatedly visited by the devil. So, it's not 100% connected to Sinners, but it gives me Sinners vibes, and I've been waiting to read this, so hopefully after Cheat Sheet I will have the palate cleansed and I'll be ready for a little Sinners vibes. Anywho, that is it for me. If you've stuck with my rambling this far, as always, thank you for sticking with me on my journey, and happy reading.